might be our behavior response, like we also play things, repeatedly like them, or to reflect or help them to aware, you are being accepted. I'm also doing the same thing like you. Correct. But
This podcast shares personal stories and professional insights, but it's not a substitute for medical advice or therapy. If you're looking for support, do speak to someone qualified and trained in child development or special needs care. You'll find the full disclaimer on the screen and in the show note.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Adapting Together. It's a podcast that is to empower and support and inspire parents and caregivers of neurodivergent individuals. And I am Carmen, your co-host for today's episode. And joining me, we have Kevin and we have Xin Yi.
Hi.
And our special guest, Ms Raynette. Yeah, today we are so grateful that Ray can join us. And I first heard about Ray a few years ago. She's known as someone that is very one of the very dedicated therapists in town. And then this year we have had opportunity to work together with few common clients, and we communicated more closely. And this year that I'm glad that, and I'm so impressed by the meaningful impact Ray has made in this children's life, and also the family that she has been supported. Yeah. So maybe I will just pass the time to Ray to introduce a bit about yourself, give us a bit of background, and what led you to become a play therapist.
I feel a bit embarrassed when when you introduce me that way. So I'm a counselor. I'm also a registered play therapist. Yeah. So maybe some of us might confuse between these, but it's like when all of us are being trained as a mental health professional, you can be a psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, and then in order to practice in Malaysia. But if you further your education, like after postgraduate, to have specialized in certain population, for me is using play therapy approach to work with children. Yeah, that's when we earn our license. Yeah. So I'm a counselor as well as a registered play therapist.
Okay. Yeah. So for parents who may new to this term, what exactly a play therapy about? A lot of time I think parents have understood of the meaning. Some of them, they thought that play therapy, I want to send my kids to play therapy to improve play skill per se, So maybe it's a time for you to actually share with us what is it actually a play therapy is about. Yeah.
So exactly like the name, play therapy means you get to play in the session. Yeah, but something very different is play therapy itself. By the US Play Therapy Association, we directly equalize it to define it as mental health for children. Yeah, it's a mental health treatment approach for children, because generally, especially children before 9 years old, you can't do talk therapy with them. They cannot fully...
Or call it like counseling. You cannot do a counseling session.
Yeah, so that's how we do counseling using play therapy approach to connect with them. Yeah, you can't ask a 2 months old, 3 years old, all these to do like talk therapy. Yeah, then they'll be taken aback by the question. Yeah, that we try to prompt them. We ask, of course, if we are training them for functional skills like kindergarten teacher or, speech therapist, we can ask them, get them to express more. But that's a different purpose if we want to do it for, to help the children to achieve emotion self-regulation. Yeah, or feel motivated on themselves, not because parents ask to do or teachers ask to do them. They have their innate motivation to be cultivated. They are very abstract skills that we are cultivating in children. Sometimes we call it abstract soft skill, abstract non-functional skills. Yeah, different from speech therapy, different from occupational therapy. Yeah, we work on these abstract skills like self-regulation, motivation, social acceptance, but start with your acceptance of yourself, feel that you deserve. All these are very complicated concepts that we can't cultivate in children, but in play, that's where we slowly shape up the sense of self the children by facilitating the play session in different way.
So is it all right for me to say that you mainly support children to have better mental health through play as a medium because they can't express themselves that well or even comprehend questions that you might have asked them as though a professional counselor would have asked an adult question which the adult will be able to understand, but children, their levels maybe is not there yet, so you support them to have better self-confidence or self-acceptance through playing.
Correct. Yeah, but different from the normal play, why we call play therapy is because our presence of how we use the therapy self to influence the child self. Yeah, and all of our responses, they are very fluid. We don't plan clinically, but we have an idea or goal of what that guide us of what do we respond to children with whatever they play out. Yeah.
I think the next question for our audience will be like, who will need this type of or benefit from this play therapy?
So, frankly speaking, I think everyone will benefit. But of course, play therapy is, as we say, is mental health approach intervention for children. All children and teenagers, whether neurotypical, neurodivergent, will benefit, and then and some adults actually, especially when they in fact, all adults, if we sometimes feel emotional, we might not be able to find the right words to express. And sometimes when we do things certain way, or sometimes might not even come in for therapy in our daily life. Sometimes when we see let's say a keychain that we carry, sometimes then we suddenly feel that I can connect with this. This is actually how I felt. So all the things that we do, the experiential thing that we do, whether using toys, figurines, art, Lego, so on and so forth, even daily life things that we have experienced. Yeah, it can be a play medium. They're just a medium, like how Kevin mentioned earlier. Yeah, and then whichever population that they somehow felt I think is the to answer directly to question is like where our left brain shut down. When we cannot express so well with words anymore, then we need some expressive elements. Yeah, whether or not it's toy, figurine, or art, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Right. So I think the next one that I have in mind, I'm sure some of the audience will also be interested to know when now we know about play therapy is suitable for everybody. Then I'm thinking because the population we work with is often with children with autism. So I know that children with autism, some of them they have very limited play skills in their repertoire. So it's like the way that they engage with the toy could be very repetitive and doing the same action, just play in a one-way manner. Then how do they benefit from play therapy if their play skills is already so limited? In a way. Yeah.
So in a way, that can be the baseline of how they start. Yeah. Then they most of the time, I think we see it in a very diagnostic lens for all when they go for assessment or whatever type of assessment with SDOT or clinical psychologists. Yeah, but as a counselor as well as a play therapist who have relational lens, we will see things differently we'll conceptualize this one-way play pattern, repeated play pattern, in a different way by seeing it as they feel unsafe. That's why that's their coping. Yeah, they need to assert their control by keep doing something within their safe zone. So we start with their baseline of safety, and then our response might be our behavior response, like we also play things, repeatedly like them, or to reflect or help them to aware, you are being accepted. I'm also doing the same thing like you. Correct. But I'm doing but I have a clinical rationale in my brain to that I want to help the child to create self-awareness. That's why I model it in a way that the child will definitely notice. Yeah, or that's by behavior response, or if let's say the child can already have certain their expressive language, it is more adequate, and then that's where we will respond clinically with words like, that's really satisfying when you do that. You need to do that a lot of time. Do it one time, two times. Oh, again, you're doing it. Because most people, most therapists outside will teach them like, we need to do. Can you don't be so rigid? Can we be more flexible? Yeah, but that's the repeated thing that a functional therapist will guide them already. But we are building their esteem, mental health, and acceptance so that they can choose to do it differently. It's not other people ask them to do. So we are using another approach.
So I guess like what you are saying is trying to also help the children to feel safe and trusted in a way that you are okay, you're safe here, that I'm doing the same thing, same actions like you.
Yeah, in a way, and also facilitating their self-awareness until they are motivated to
Try
move.
something
Correct.
else. Yeah.
Correct. We pace with them. Yeah, we hold space and pace.
And that's something that's meaningful for the kid, and that's why we are doing it for together with them. Okay, understand.
Thank you, Ray, for your elaboration. I'm just curious and wonder if it's okay to ask, because I'm just curious about this. Once they've aware that, you are in a way like modeling their way of playing, and they feel like, okay, it's okay for me to do like this and not. So I think it builds some trust and rapport between the child and you. And then usually, how would you further to guide them to explore a different way of playing with the same toy or a new toy, for example?
It really depends on how the child play pattern like some child, right, they and it's usually not therapist led. Yeah, so we are different from of course we can do different way, like sometimes it's therapist led, sometimes it's child led, but always we would start with the child led one in order to deepen the rapport. Don't just because, we see that, you give us a chance to enter your world, have a glimpse, then we quickly move to others. Then that will break our rapport, because they also need consistency, which is something that I think children with autism, most of the time their life is very inconsistent, starting from their sensory when they're born, and then that's why they have difficulty building fully secure attachment with their parents, and then that will lead them to a lot of behavior issue, to assert themselves, to express things in the way they understand. So rather than seeing it as I go into their world, they come into my world, and then by I facilitating to guide them for the skills, we are guided by theories and training to also see through that actually is we go into the children world, to see they might already present, and all children have the innate capacity to flourish, and when they have the awareness, actually about 70 to 80%, whether they like those verbal or non-verbal autism, they will already shift their play skills. Then when they shift in their play skills, as in play something differently, then that's when we validate them. But of course, sometimes they won't straight away play something differently. But the moment when they aware something different, right, it's up to how well we hold and pay attention to them. Sometimes their hand will move a bit differently. So I will track that. Oh, today your hands just move here a bit. But actually it's still same pattern, but they move slightly. So it's we need to track that very detailedly, and then that will slowly shape them to create a different scenes. They cannot straight away jump to different scene or different way of playing. Yeah, but of course, those like repeatedly, let's say 20 plus session also on the same thing. And then that's when, other than creating the awareness, we also try to find other ways to engage them. Yeah, that's when we said that we have directive way of intervention or non-directive way. Non-directive, and on top of that, we have the conscious and unconscious. Like the directive way is like, let's say, pick a color to represent your feelings today. This one, do you want to do it, place it here or place it here? And what does that mean? That's more of like we interrupt their play process to create something different or to guide a bit. Yeah. But just now when I said, we track something different that they change, those are the non-directive play skills. And most of the time, that's very powerful. Yeah, because my intention is not to teach them play skills. My intention is to create self-awareness and be motivated to shift is their mental health, not so much on the skills.
Do you have any example, a case, that you actually has successfully bring this SD child, maybe who is suffering with some mental concern, and then bring this child a breakthrough? Maybe you can share a little, because we would like to visualize a little bit how does it look like.
I can think of this very typical ASD child that I think is about 8 years old. Yeah, and then he's actually non-verbal, but don't know why he can get into an international school. So I was doing session with him in a private international school, and then so they just referred in because they cannot get contact with the parents at all. So initially, the school intention is to get me to, connect with parents in a different way. Hopefully, they can,
Communicate.
correct can communicate with the parents to either bring the child for help or how. Yeah, because it will be, imagine a non-verbal 8 years old and then in a mainstream school, and then even though he can cope with academic, he can do many all the academic work on himself, but then he's cannot express, cannot talk, and then that would definitely affect the friendship, communication with teachers for all work, even though you can do the work, and then a lot of behavior. Yeah, and then and often crying even if they don't have that kind of like chaotic interruptive behavior. So the child have all these. And then when they referred to me, I couldn't get any, even if I cannot get any information or cannot get connection with the parents, what happened is the child, after about 6 sessions, and then he opened up and talked to me about his story. Then that's when we realized, hey, actually the child is not like non-verbal, as in the skills wise, not like non-verbal, but he is anxious.
He's anxious.
He's anxious.
The anxiety.
So it's the anxiety, which I think it is a common emotions. It's just whether they can aware or not for all children on the spectrum actually. Yeah. Whether or not it's heightened or what, anxiety somehow motivate human to do well, and more so for our children on the spectrum where their sensory experience, many experiences are disturbed from the moment they are born. So what happened for this child is we do just very basic tracking. Yeah, so in child therapy work, we don't do a lot of questioning like how do you feel or this, but then from the moment they walk into the room, that's when we say, oh, today you wear a different clothes, or today you have something different, or today you walk in calmly, today you are jumping in. All these are connections and help them to aware about themselves as well, and help them to feel, oh, you deserve to be noticed. Yeah, and then just by doing that, he come in, he doesn't even play much, but he always play out like things, animal scenes that, especially animal child rearing scene, like how parent animal take care of the child animal. Yeah. So then that's when you know, oh, something's, if there's some repetition, even if you're not trained as a play therapist, somehow you know it's very important. Yeah, there's a team, there's a play team. So that's how we have a glimpse of the child world and how does the animals like. So on certain days, the parent animal and child animal interaction will be scolding type. On certain days will be like, oh, really caring. So you know what's in the world of the child. Yeah, that he have both. Yeah, and then and later on when the parents on board, that's when I know they are a single parent family. So parents are very obviously parent will be very busy. Yeah, and then of course want the child to have the best. They does know the child so-called have speech delay in the past, but then they get to come into the school. But no matter what, I think the progress is later on just with this simple tracking of how he behaved differently and how the story go on differently. Even though repeatedly the first 6 sessions is just repeated same scene. Yeah, but later on it transformed on itself when just with repeated, he's repeatedly playing the same thing, but my response is different. But the difference is also how he behaving differently from moment to moment. Yeah, then about 1 hour every 15 minutes to 1 hour every week, and then we see the shift after. We don't call it progress. We like to call it shift in play therapy lens because we are always growing, and even though regress or your progress like sort of like go backwards, it's also just a projection of your daily life experience. Why will you regress? Then that's also a progress, even though sometimes you can regress and go forward. So we like to use shift, and then the child shift in 6 sessions.
I see.
That is amazing.
When he started talking to you, I'm sure you felt very delighted.
Delighted in the heart.
Yeah.
Cannot show in the face.
Because children who are anxious, or somehow we call it selective mute. Selective mute is like anxiety where you pick who do you speak to. Obviously, you can speak so fluent, and then and we know for children with selective mutism, you cannot show too big reaction. Some more autism, then they will thought, oh, you respond differently means I might do something wrong. We never know how they will respond.
They might
Correct.
misconstrue your reaction in the negative.
So, of course, I try to stay calm, but I did express that I'm very happy. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yes, I was trying to consider because I know what was going on, like the anxiety. So that's why I don't try to conceal my happiness. Yeah, but I do express with words lah.
Understand, because sometimes I think as a parents, right, if we see our children show a little bit of improvement, we might think that showing them how happy we are is actually a very good way to encourage them to do more. But we might not know that actually sometimes our reaction is too big or too overreacted. It might actually work opposite on what the impact we try to have by creating that reaction itself.
Yeah. But I would say that's also we never know how the child will interpret, and we wanna be genuine, Yeah. So it for parents who have thought like whether you might react to, we can reflect. But if the child doesn't respond positively, then we always have opportunity to repair and do it differently. Yeah, so just don't be taken aback even if yeah.
Thank you for sharing with us a lot of information. A lot of things also very new to me, like some of the introduction and the good things and what do you do in a play therapy. So I'm sure also some of the audience today will be interested to know, if I were to send my child to a play therapy, how does like a typical session would look like? I know maybe everybody will be different, right? But how would a typical one would look like? How do you start with, and then anything that you would like to share with the audience related to like a daily session?
Yeah. A daily session. It's actually very fluid, but maybe if to detail the process, we always start with a parent intake. Yeah, of course, on parent intake, your child don't come. Only parents come. We'll always emphasize, no matter how young is your child, actually they know you're talking about them. Yeah. So to start with a good rapport building, we always encourage. For me, it's a must. Parents don't bring your child, or else I will also invite you to do it another time, because the impact will be there for your child. Don't want to start it with another way where you will be talking in front of the therapist with your about your child, and your child, whether they comprehend or don't comprehend, they make sense of what you talk about them their way, they definitely know you are talking about them. So
Very strange, right?
yeah.
Like when we discuss about my son, he, no matter what he's doing, he would sometimes turn around and look at us.
Yeah.
And when other people talk about him, he will also do the same. So it's a sign that while he might not show or express that he understood, but he actually know what was the topic of the conversation.
Correct. And sometimes we need to, right? No choice. Like somehow we just, and this is something they need to learn and be resilient about. This is their daily life. People talk about us, so this is just part and parcel of life. But when their self-esteem might mostly be vulnerable at the beginning, we always lead parents through that process. So that's like how we start the process with parent intake, and then we understand, the growing up experience from pregnancy all the way until now. Yeah, until their age where they are being referred to me, and then to see what could be possibly affect, contribute to have an impact on the child experience on their inner world. Then that's when we also help guide parents with, this might be, but it's not something that you should be guilty about, but what can you do to repair? Then parents also learn along the way. Yeah, just with an intake. So that could be somehow how it looks like in a parent intake, and then with some guidance, and then then we move on to a child intake, whereby it's like a first session with the child client, and then that's where they will always also again prepare parents, just do it like normal play. Yeah, normal day. And then I set up my office in a way that it looks like a home. Yeah, rather than a clinic. There's no reception counter. It looks like a home with sofa, living room, lounge, and then rooms. And then we'll get the children to just come in like normal, and then but the assessment, we don't do paper and pencil assessment, or psychometric assessment with any numbers, but we do qualitative assessment by observing. So from the moment the child walk in, does your child put the shoe on the rack? When your child walk in, does he need to walk around to look at the place? Then all those are the exhibition or presentation of what is the emotion your child is presenting, and what's the intensity of the emotion your child is presenting. It might not be nervous, or is the child aware or not aware of maybe his behavior is showing that he's nervous to a new place, but then his expression is very excited. So it doesn't match. So all these are our qualitative observation that we will really start with, and it's go from not just the intake, but go from session to session. But and then so that's like when the child enter the space of the living room, then we go into the so-called like a special play therapy room, whereby all the toys will be carefully selected. For children to either play out their issue. Not all children play out their issue, but they can play out things related to their daily life experience, or they might playing out their needs, or they might be playing out their feelings. Whether or not the things are related to them. So for example, they let's say they are always lonely at home, or they are lonely struggling with their things. So sometimes even if they might pick up two figurines, like two superhero, then you know, oh, both superhero are superhero, not villain, so might be a good value. And then that's when sometimes they say, this is like my homework, this is like the pencil, then I need to always write. Yeah, they are always fighting. My hand cannot control to write in this book. So they can play out things differently. So that might be like how they play out, but those are very vivid one where they play out their issue. Yeah. But we and then we will say, oh, this is like this is something like your school. So that's when we engage children with more conscious and non-directive kind of response, because it's the children show me, so it's non-directive, and I will respond in a way that, oh, it's related to your school. But for those who doesn't play out, that's they just play out like, oh, these two fighting, they might not relate to what happens, especially those non-verbal, they just play. Then we just stay in the unconscious lens, and then to say, oh, this one need to fight, oh, but they fight really tense, and then this one press again, oh, and then, oh, in the end, both actually fail. So it's a lose-lose conflict. It's like very frustrated. No matter, it's very helpless. Then we just track the feelings. So this is like, they engage us, the children present to us, so non-directive, but also we respond in a way that stay with their unconscious. Yeah, so there's conscious response, unconscious response in this way, depending on what the children play out. And of course, like what we talked about earlier, sometimes we need to guide them, like what's the color of the day, what's your feelings. Those are we intervene.
Actively
Intervene. Yeah, those are directive intervention. Yeah.
Have you encountered any children who may seem, because just now the example that you shared, right? The kid going to the session already want to show us like, okay, I take this toy and play how to play with it. And then from there, you can assess what is the things that you need to intervene, or know, or you can derive like some conclusion or know from based on your observation. But have you encountered any children who may seem to be void of just uninterested?
Oh, definitely. They just sit there.
Then yeah. Yeah. How about those children?
Yeah, so we always start with connection for our work to get done, right? Then to get as the foundation of our work. So we always start with connection, building connection with the children as a foundation of our work. So for children who show to be like really disinterested in play, and then just sit there, I think the first thing I would do internally, as I mentioned a few times, like we start with the self of a therapist. So I need to embrace what's going on with myself first. Definitely I'll be nervous, anxious, but how calm we are, that's how fast we can come into our clinical, come into our logic, our clinical rationale, how to respond. Maybe this child don't know how to play. Maybe this child, he's nervous on the first time to a new setting. So it starts with all this clinical rationale going on. Of course, this happened very quickly in my brain, and then only if I calm down, I could have a genuine self to connect with the children. Most of the time, for those who really non-verbal and sit there, right, I won't say anything. I will hold the presence with them. But then after a while, then I might like, this is actually quite nervous. Then I'll try to, or I might not even say this is nervous, depending on what the parents describe, the level of comprehension and expression of the child. I might not even say nervous. I might just track the child body movement. You would like to just sit there to start. So I'm still noticing you. You deserve to be noticed, even if you don't feel like doing anything. We can start there. So we always start with what the child presents us with. But I can only do that if I can embrace my own anxiety and calm down. Then for my clinical rationale to come back online. Yeah. So always start with that.
Okay, I think I can relate a little bit, like as a therapist, but I'm a behavior therapist. So working with a kid when a kid seems really uninterested and avoid, then we always also see what they are doing. And then, of course, notice like what he take. Then, oh, maybe I will start with just that thing. So sometimes we get really anxious when nothing that we prep or something that don't seem like something that, especially on those first few initial assessment or session, right? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Renee, for shedding light on how the first few sessions with a child would look like. So it's very comfortable, and I assume it's the same space that we are in now, which there's a lot of toys behind us. And even as an adult who is cross 40 years old, I come in, I also feel like, wow, so many things. And it's so, the vibes here is very relaxed and whatnot. But I'm just wondering, let's say for children who are on the spectrum, and also for some of them may be a little bit too active, if they comes in, would it be normal challenge for you that they would just maybe took all the toys or just wipe out everything down the floor? So it must be a very carefully designed thing, but you still put it like that. So I guess it's very safe for your toys to be like that.
Neurodivergent children, we don't start with this room that we are in, but we start with another room where the you can imagine the shelf that they can open, so they can choose where to open. So it helps them to organize their experience, and naturally when they step in, they felt organized. Yeah, and that's how we model organization, especially for neurodivergent children. And then of course, in their daily life, they will be susceptible to all this. And then when they level up, they can come this room. And most of the time, this room is when they level up to, they can do peer session, sibling session, parent-child session. We have different format of therapy to help, especially children on the spectrum, to expand their social acceptance and sense of safety with more people, and expand their expression, definitely. Yeah, so that's why it looks different. Yeah, we have different level of the playroom. Yeah, that's a very good question, Kevin. Very, very, very aware.
Because I was thinking if my son comes in, then I have to maybe spend 1 hour to help you to put all this thing up, or even buy a new one for those that is damaged because of the accident.
But we might also be surprised sometimes, especially the first session. I have many children who have impulsivity issue when they come in, or they might even try to sit like that to control themselves. Yeah. And most of them, first session will be like that rather than straight away. And they'll ask more approval. Yeah.
I think you have done some, maybe the trust in the rapport with you, and they know that how
And
to
that
be
starts with
calm
parents.
in this environment.
But that's the first session.
That's the first session.
Yeah,
wow.
and you should. That's why I always emphasize is how well parents prepare the child. Yeah, because yes, they see a lot of things, but they also know in their daily life that they have a lot of accidents. So they have also a lot of bad experience. So when they come into a really stimulating space, they might also be, at their best behavior. Correct. And then at first session, so I can set rules. Yeah. So we might we thought children might behave certain way. They might always give us surprise. Yeah.
Right. So just now, I caught you talking about different levels, right? Level 1, they'll be in that room with more structured and a more organized thing, right? This one level up, then can come in here. So can you share with us what are some of the targeted goals, or like what would you work with him more actively when they first come in a room that's more confined spaces and more like sanitized in the environment? Yeah.
Definitely we start with sense of safety. So if we know the psychosocial development theories of children, we always start with, when you're born into the world, do you feel safe, not safe? And then that will, if you don't feel safe, the theory is if you don't your needs are unmet to help you to feel safe, then that's when you will start with that lens. This world is unsafe, and carry on to your interaction when you try to, no matter what you try to intervene with speech therapy and occupational therapy, they'll feel unsafe. They'll carry that lens and perception. Yeah. So we always start with sense of safety, and of course, if that sense of safety is okay, with the way they play, and then that's when we they work interrelatedly. There's no like linear goal, but sense of safety is definitely one. And then self-regulation, not because parents are there to co-regulate you, but you start with yourself. You are able to regulate yourself even without the presence of parents or even without the presence of other trusted adults. Yeah, so your self-regulation skills, and then of course acceptance of yourself, and then that's when you have your esteem and your motivation to do things and connect with others. And then when they reach that motivation to connect, most of the time that's when they most of it will be ready. They can take turns. All their skills they'll be motivated to get their skills, get their skill sets done. Then get their skill set learned in different setting, because I'm sure they still go to school and other intervention. This is where they connects all of them with the self-motivation and self-acceptance piece. Then that's when they can these are some of the goals then.
Okay. All right.
Of course, there's also a complicated one, whereby complicated one means like it's not about the child themselves only. It's also a system issue. Like because of not being accepted by the parents, parents have difficult time, and then or parent separation, or maybe while taking care of the child, then they have another sibling who either neurodivergent or neurotypical. They also have emotional issues. It affects the child, and then or in this process they might experience any other things that we might experience in our as a neurotypical, like grief, losing somebody, grief, medical. You might have medical trauma, medical experience. I also encounter very traumatic cases where children are being kidnapped, and then they save the children back. Because they are very prone to this actually. No matter or they are being abused by their helper. Sometimes, most of the time, not even helpers. Sometimes can be abused by their own parent or their relative. So these are because of their difficulties. Sometimes make them susceptible to all these issues. And when they already struggle with expression, more so you cannot do talk therapy with them. That's when play therapy comes in to help. And most of the time we start off with helping them to assert themselves only, not even talking about direct issue, because it's too scary. And that's when the children build up their capacity. You start with where they're comfortable to show you their world. Maybe even the abusive child, a child being abused, they will come and show you a very beautiful world. But that's what they need at that moment. We start with where they present us with.
I still remember actually my first encounter of work together with a play therapist is about, I think, 10 years ago, where this client, actually the grandma passed away. This grandma is actually the main caregiver. And this grandma passed away, and it's actually affected this child so much that he come with behavior, this child also on the spectrum, come with behavior, and then in school not able to function in school and things like that. So until the school very good that they actually have this service, they offer play therapists in the school setting. And first thing when he started with the session, he took a figurine and he buried this figurine in the sand. It's actually representing that the grandma, and then keep putting sand over the figurine. So he did that for a few sessions. I think that is where I was impressed, and I was first knew that actually play therapy can be so powerful. Because we cannot ask I think that time he was like maybe 7 or 8 years old. We really can't get him to see a counselor. We know that there is nothing. He will say, because kids on the spectrum, they like things to be okay. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm happy, I'm not sad, you know. So but the thing is the inner world of them is actually not okay. Yeah, so that was my first encounter, and from that moment onwards I started to see a lot more cases, you know, that benefit from play therapy session. Yeah, so definitely I believe you have more of all this experience. You know, what brings you the joy in working, you know, in this line, and also especially with children on the spectrum?
What brings the joy? I think the joy and is a kind of not like happy. It's like it's actually quite weird to say or quite unethical to say we are joy seeing people suffering, then we have people child coming. But I think it's a kind of satisfaction, kind of joy when you see no matter how chaotic someone or how unpredictable life experience can be for someone. We never know what will happen in someone's life. But the joy of they trust me to journey with them. They give me the opportunity to, and trust me to journey with them, whether the parents or the child. It always starts with the parents. Yeah, so parents send them in, right? So yeah, the joy comes from parents trust me to journey with them and trust the process, because it might be repetitive play. We might not get anything out of it, even though I can assure them with the clinical rationale. But it's like, it's just the trust to journey with people who are at different phase of their life. Yeah, and also go back to my personal experience. I felt education system, like, of course education is important, but education system like teacher who taught us doesn't equip me with the skills to face the reality. Yeah, the reality is not if I express this with this way, I will get what I want. The reality is not like I behave to be a good boy or good girl, then I will be free for worries. I will always get acceptance from people. The reality is not like, I do good planning in certain way, then in the end I will get what I want. So all these are very unpredictable and they are very abstract skills that come into your body. You need to be okay with all these. They are parts and parcel, like accept. But these are very abstract and soft skills that I think our education system, or when we send children for other therapy, even though they are important, but they could not cover. It's a place where words cannot reach. Yeah, so I think that's where I felt very happy that I find a tool that I somehow help myself. I found meaningful for me to express, and then also I can see how it works professionally to help other people who also can embrace and train their embrace skills, to journey with their life. So I think that's the pleasure.
Yeah, I just reflecting as you were sharing, Rennie, that let's say I cannot speak for every child, but only for my son. Almost all the therapy sessions that we send him to is kind of like challenging him to do something that's beyond his skill, to grow his skill set and reach certain gap. But it sounds like if he was to come into a play therapy session with you, it's not about stretching or closing any gap, but it's more on to build or to let him be himself and feel okay being himself. And that actually builds confidence. And the confidence that's being bred from here actually can support him to do better with all the other therapy sessions.
Correct. That's how play therapy complement other therapy as well.
Yeah. And the reason I had this realization as you were sharing is that I actually kind of worry about his mental health sometimes, because as a child on the spectrum, he's not very well versed to express his own feelings. Even sometimes adults also not very good at expressing our own feelings, right? But adult maybe is for a fear of being judged, but for him, he has feelings for sure, but he might not be able to express it because of lack of vocabulary or not able to say certain words, right? So I was worried, especially when his routine has been a big change, and then he's been going to school, and then sometimes he showed reluctance to go to school. That may be a sign that it might be too difficult for him. And if it's continue like that, I think you will develop anxiety and then slowly depression, and that's not good for him and not good for me. So I think you also spoke about parents trusted you, and that gives you the joy also, right, from the first step. If you still have space, I would like to add more joy to your work and your life.
I thought that was a question. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think I was thinking the concerns that I have for my son, who can I bring him to see? Because no one can understand what he thinks, no one can help us to step into his world. But if you're using play as a medium and you are clinically trained and with all the experiences you have, you maybe can see from the actions he do in the sessions room, you might be able to relate like, okay, maybe this is the rationale behind this certain behavior, and maybe that will actually help us a lot. Yeah. And the fact that your place is not too far from our place, so is a bonus.
Yeah, but I wanna while you were sharing, I also wanna correct something. It's not that we don't stretch the child, but the stretch doesn't come from us. It's the child choose when he wanna be stretched.
Inner one.
Yes, it's inner stretch. He will be aware about him being stretched, and then it's about how the child show us where they want us to continue to stretch. But that's where we train the self-esteem and mental health. Because the children can't run away from, they still need to learn. So they need to be resilient. Yeah.
Just now we actually talked a bit about how to about anxious. So like Kevin say, I'm worried that my son suddenly from anxious then go to depression and all these things. Maybe Ray, you can share with the audience here is actually what are some signs that we can see as a parents. What are the signs of that we can start notice about on our kids so that we can start to do something before they turn into depression?
I think this is a skills that all parents have by just noticing. Yeah, it always starts with noticing and pacing with your child. When we say noticing and pacing, it sounds very simple, but actually very hard to do because daily life we got a lot of things, a lot of tasks, and we see our child a lot of gaps. And then, but if switching a lens of finding out what child cannot do to sometimes, not always, but have a switch also for ourselves or our own mindset of paying attention of what the child already can do. Yeah. And then make some effort to comment on that or just do together with the child what he or she can already do. That's very assuring, and most of the time doing together more powerful than what to say or what to do. Yeah, like if a child already can do, I don't know, like one of the hobby your child have, or sometimes we always say the special interest, they are special interests that say they like to play dinosaur, then we say this is rigid. But if we don't see as a rigid as a problem, we switch it to that's a coping also. When a child don't have anything like feel constantly being stretched, their rigidity will become more because that's also their coping. And then sometimes also play with them and expand from that. Might not even need to expand, just play with them. That's something assure your child you still deserve the space to be a child, even though we need to constantly stretch you. Then it helps we always say connection is the best to prevent depression or any mental health disorder. Yeah, even though your child fall depressed, connection is the one also brings them back. Yeah, so doing those helps the movement and the activities.
So meaning when the parents start noticing something that is a bit worry or what, go back to the basic is to connect with the child once again.
Not even like sometimes you cannot notice. We don't know what's the warning sign. Children can shut down, children can be activated, but we don't wait until all this happens. We always start with early intervention. In every day you slot this in, then you don't even need to look for warning sign. Warning sign can come very varied. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I also the next question we would want to ask would be, where can we find all these credible play therapists?
Where can we find
Is there any platform or any portal that would be helpful for our audience? If you want to look for play therapists, these are some of the places that have no registered play therapists to start with.
The sad thing about Malaysia is we doesn't have a regulatory body for not just play therapy, like children mental health. We doesn't really have. Most of us are trained as a regardless clinical psychologist, counselor, or psychiatrist who can practice this approach. We all started with being trained in a mental health background and theories and developmental growing up theories of lifespan theories of children. So this is definitely a must. But then before you further, but in Malaysia, the sad thing is we doesn't really have a one platform to search or regulate our license for play therapy. Yeah. So, but there are a few organizations that usually those of us who decided to further will get license from, and then you can search up Malaysia in their platform, which is the Australasia, and then the PTI or PTUK, that's the UK side, or I myself is the APT, the USA side. Yeah, and of course coming up is the APTS, the Singapore side. So these four are some of the key regulatory bodies that issue license as an association all around the globe. But actually all around the globe, no one said you must be like counselor, clinical psychologist, all of us need to be trained with child therapy approach or play therapy in order to work with children. So actually you see most people still do talk therapy with children. But we'll always, if I'm the one teaching the course, I will always emphasize you do talk therapy with children by having playful conversation with them. Yeah, averagely from 9 years old and above. Because they have developed certain expressive language. Then when you have the playful conversation, you have the connection, it will still work to a certain level. And then, but we couldn't, and then back to where to find, it's the fact that I'm elaborating so many means we cannot find in a one platform. Yeah, but those are some websites that you can search up. And then more so, another challenge is not all of us are trained to work with neurodivergent, even though we are trained to work with play therapy, because it's just mental health. But most of them, when we start practicing, they always refer neurotypical children, because neurodivergent itself is a even more specialized niche area. Yeah.
So just to check that my understanding is correct, right? Play therapies can be for everyone, but not all play therapists are specialized in working with children who is on the spectrum. And to find a play therapist in Malaysia, I think is not so easy as per compared to find a counselor to talk to, you know. And there's no platform for us to easily search like which state or which city that I can go to a play therapist. But there's associations from other country or region that actually issue licenses or qualification for play therapists. So we can go to these respective websites in certain countries, which we will put it in the show note for our listeners and audience. But for me, myself, I'm comfortable knowing you as a play therapist already, and I know I don't need to find anywhere to search for more. So if you are watching these or listening in and you would like to find a play therapist for your child who is on the autism spectrum, especially because not all play therapists are specialized in working with children on the spectrum. Raynette could be the one that you can add more joy to her life.
Free publicity. Yeah, but I would like to also add on, many of them also didn't get their license from all these registration body from overseas, because it's actually quite costly. Yeah, so many dedicated therapists who actually further themselves to pick up play therapy, they might not have a license, but they will always, the first criteria, they always train with a mental health practitioner license in Malaysia. They are not some random board game therapies or art therapies, which they use art, use Lego, use board game as a medium, but then they doesn't have a mental health and lifespan developmental theories trained about children. So always look for someone with a license to practice as a mental health professional first as a first criteria, and then secondly, you can ask whether they which issue, what issue they usually work with. Is it neurodivergent or neurotypical mental health emotional issues only? And then of course there will be a plus if they can show you the regulatory license body, which definitely not from Malaysia at this stage lah.
Yeah. Maybe another last thing we can try to do is Google their offices and see whether they have rooms like this or not. Because if you have, right, it definitely shows you work with children and you do play therapy.
Oh, really? I don't think so.
I'm not too sure.
This one I'm not too sure because I visit some so-called like board game therapists room, right? They're also like this, even more equipped than mine. But they are... more game, and they are not trained with mental health background, but their room looks very good, and their marketing strategy definitely much better than mine.
Just to check, when you say they are mental health professional, right? That means they have to practice and license to practice in Malaysia, so it's under the Allied Health Professionals Act, something like this, right? Not anyone who's graduate with a psychology degree or master, not just like that.
Yeah, it's
just to make sure
by
this
master
is clear.
level, like by master level, they will
has to
be
be
able.
master level.
Yeah,
Master level also registered under the Act.
Correct.
Yeah. Not just a graduate with a certificate.
Correct. Means they have complete their internal practicum and external internship. Then they'll earn their license when they complete their master. Okay.
If you could just share one message with parents who are beginning this journey, what would it be?
When you say journey, what do you mean by
Journey when they start play therapy.
Oh, start play therapy. Maybe the usual thing I always remind parents is when they started the journey, they might not confirm they want to continue the journey. They always start with a consultation, no? But I always remind parents whether you continue the journey with me or not, remember to take care of yourself, because also your parents' self, they'll influence the child. Parents' child will influence the child the most. How parents, you yourself regulate your emotion, eventually your child will also learn from you. The child will get perspective from you by the time where their brain can absorb and be aware. So always start with taking care of yourself. Don't rush to send to too many therapy, or don't rush to send to me even.
You are.
Oh my God.
I'm quite certain there's a real need. I mean, sometimes it's about expectations. So parents may, just out of curiosity want to explore, and then they might not stick to the whole journey together, especially sometimes out of expectation mismatch. Some may feel that after 2 sessions, I still feel some difference already. But sometimes it's really depending on the child, and also good things takes time, right? So we have to have patience and also remember why we started something in the first place. I think that's very important. I think as a parents who have a son who is on the spectrum, I learned that learning never stops. Today, I learned more about another type of new therapies called play therapies, and who play with the child and also let the child express themselves through play as a language or as a tool. It's not language like English, Bahasa, or Mandarin, but it's using toy and play as a language to communicate. And also, maybe you will end up as a person who are more understanding about what's going on in the child's world than the parents, because you're very focused during the sessions time. But parents, sometimes we have a lot of things on our plate as well. And I can relate that if I'm concerned about my child's mental health and his motivation and self-acceptance and esteem, I think that's very important because everything we as a parents want to provide for them is to support them. And if the person that you're trying to support to, they don't function well or feel well about themselves, that will actually add a lot of barrier to every effort that we try to put in. And that's why I hope that through this episode, you also, like me, you have your eyes open up a lot bigger. My eyes already small to begin with. That there's this play therapy that can be very useful and supportive for our child, and eventually also support our own mental health well-being as a parents as well. And I'm sure many parents may not heard about play therapy as well. So do everyone a favor, share the episode out as well, and subscribe and follow our show at the same time. And if you have any comment or any suggestion to us, please don't be shy. Also share with us. Help yourself to express your opinion to us as well. We would very much welcome that. And with that, thank you very much. And thank you, Raynette, for a very insightful sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.